Okay, so once again, good morning all. So in the last lecture, we have started the numericals or the problems based on the chapter number 1 related to the simple stresses and the strain. And whatever the basic concepts are required to solve the numericals, or whatever the assumptions we have to consider, whatever the important formulas we have to consider, whatever the definitions are there, that we have to understood in the previous lecture. Also, some 2 to 3 problems we have solved in the previous lectures. That is, one problem is based on the elastic constant calculation. That is, sometimes Young's modulus is given, Poisson's ratio is given, and we have to calculate the another elastic constant. Maybe sometimes E is given, then we have to calculate the G. Sometimes E is given, then we have to calculate the K. So like that, based on this one problem we have solved. Then we have solved one problem related to the stress strain diagram for the ductile material, or maybe it will be considered as a mild steel. So whatever the important of the points are there, that means sequence of points from the proportional limit to the breaking point. So that sequence we have to define properly, and accordingly we have to matching the pairs. Then one last problem, whatever we have solved, it is related to the thermal stresses and their conditions. So the thermal stresses and the conditions, that two conditions we have discussed. When thermal stresses are developed and when thermal stresses are not developed, that also we have discussed in the previous lecture. So once again, I am repeating, if there is a pre-expansion due to the temperature increases or decreases, if there is a pre-expansion taking place, that means there is only thermal deformation, no thermal stress will be developed. But if we'll avoid that particular expansion, the body is totally constrained. That means in any direction, there is no any expansion. Then we can say that there is no thermal deformation, but there is a thermal stresses developed in that particular body. So like that, some basic problems we have solved in the previous lecture. Now, once again, today in the today's lecture, we will solve some of the numericals based on this particular chapter number 1. So this is the next problem in front of you. So I will read the statement carefully, then you have to understand the statement first of all, on which topic or on which point that problem is asked, and how to go for the solution. Let us see. A metallic rod of 500 mm length and 50 mm diameter. So rod means it is circular in cross section. Okay. So metallic rod of 500 mm length, its length is given, then 50 mm diameter is given, comma, when subjected to the tensile force of 100 kilonewton at the ends. So that particular rod is subjected to the load of 100 kilonewton at the ends. Okay. It experiences the increase in length by 0.5 meter. So due to this 100 kilonewton load is applied, what happened? It has been observed that there is an increase in length as this particular rod is subjected to the tensile force. So obviously the length is going to increase, and that increasing length is given as a 0.5 mm, and reduction in its diameter by 0.015 mm. So what happened? At one side, one dimension is increases, but at another side, one dimension is goes on decreasing. So whatever the length is provided here, that length is along the direction of force. So whatever the length is provided, that length is provided, or the force is applied in the direction of length. The force is not applied in the direction of diameter. So what happened? One parameter is increases. Which parameter is increases? That is length is increases. And at another side, there is a decrease in diameter, and that decrease in diameter is also given 0.015 mm. Full stop. The Poisson's ratio of the rod material is. So we have to calculate the Poisson's ratio. So these are the some given parameters they have given here. Okay. And by using this data, we have to calculate the Poisson's ratio. So first of all, we have to remind the formula for the Poisson's ratio. So what is the formula we are having? So this is the formula in front of you. What is that particular formula? Poisson's ratio is equal to lateral strain upon longitudinal strain, or the longitudinal strain is also called as a linear strain. Okay, so here, first of all, we have to calculate the lateral strain and we have to calculate the longitudinal strain, and that ratio we have to take, and then we can easily calculate the Poisson's ratio. But in order to calculate that lateral strain and longitudinal strain, first of all, we have to understand that which parameters we have to require. So whatever the given data they have mentioned in the statement, how this particular data is useful for the calculation of lateral strain and the longitudinal strain. So now here, as I have discussed, the linear strain and the lateral strain. The linear is also called as the longitudinal. So what is meant by the linear? What is meant by the longitudinal? the strain induced in the direction of force, that strain is called as a linear or longitudinal strain. And the strain induced perpendicular to the direction of force, that strain is called as a lateral strain. Suppose if I will draw one figure here, so whatever the rod they have mentioned, so this is the rod, okay? It will be circular in cross section, okay? So this is the rod and this is the axis. And here it is subjected to the load of 100 kilonewton. It is tensile, equal and opposite load. This is the length. Length is given 500 and this vertical will be considered as the diameter. So this diameter will be the D. Okay, so this is the simple figure I have drawn. What it indicates, one metallic rod is there and that metallic rod is having length L as a 500 mm. Okay, its diameter is 50 mm. Due to this 100 kilonewton force, what happened? There is an increase in length. Why length is increases? Because this length parameter is provided in horizontal axis, or I can say that this length is provided in the direction of force. This length parameter is provided in the direction of force. Therefore, there is an increase in length. But what about another dimension? Whatever the diameter is given, that diameter goes on decreasing because it is not provided in the direction of force. But now here, whatever the linear strain is developed, that strain will be developed in the direction of force, means it will be developed in the direction of length. So whatever the strain is induced in the direction of length, that strain will be considered as a linear strain, and whatever the strain is induced in another direction means in the direction of diameter. So diameter will be considered in y direction and length will be considered in x direction. Therefore, in x direction, length is provided. Therefore, linear strain will be developed in the direction of length, and another lateral strain will be provided in the direction of y or in the direction of diameter. So, first of all, we have to calculate the lateral strain and the linear strain. The strain definition is common: change in dimensions upon original dimension. If we define the basic definition of strain is equal to change in dimension upon original dimension. Now this basic definition we have to apply for the length as well as for the diameter. If I will apply this definition for the length, that is change in length upon original length. This is for the length parameter. And if I have to apply the same definition for the diameter, that is change in diameter upon original diameter. Now, out of this, just I am asking one question to you. Now, whether diameter we have to consider for the lateral strain or whether length we have to consider for lateral strain? Yes, what is your answer? Yes, diameter we have to consider for the lateral strain because diameter is the things which is in the direction of y, and in that direction, the lateral strain will be developed. So, what is our next? So, this is the some another hints it is mentioned. So linear strain means change in length upon original length. Why? Because the force is applied along the length. But what about another dimensions? If I will consider this last formula, let us see. In lateral strain is equal to change in diameter upon original diameter. So in this particular formula, in the formula of the Poisson's ratio, what I have to do? Lateral strain is equal to change in diameter upon original diameter. We have to keep at the numerator side linear strain or longitudinal strain. We have to take delta L upon L, that means change in length upon original length. So change in diameter is given here. How much? 0.015 mm. Original diameter is given 50 mm. So change in diameter upon original diameter, you will get the lateral strain. Okay. Then change in length is also given. How much? 0.5 mm. And original length is also given. How much? 500 mm. So that change in length upon original length we have to calculate, and we have to put here as a longitudinal strain, and by taking the ratio you will get the Poisson's ratio. Now tell me the answer. What will be your Poisson's ratio? Do the calculation.
0.3
diameter upon original diameter divided by change in length upon original length. What is the answer? Yes, 0.3. Let us check. Yes, correct. Your answer is 0.3. Please check your answer. Here I have represented the answer on the screen. That is 0.3. So simple calculation we have to do. We have to calculate the lateral strain. We have to calculate the linear or longitudinal strain. We have to put both the values in the Poisson's ratio formula and immediately you will get the answer. So this particular problem will be asked for the 2 marks. Here there is no any negative marking system because here we have to actually solve the problem and directly we have to put the answer. But if there is an objective type of questions, there is a possibility of negative marking. So simply we have to understood the things in which direction force is applied and whatever the parameters, whatever the dimensions of the body is there, which dimension is represented in which direction, that we have to identify first and then we have to use the particular formula. So here change in diameter upon original diameter divided by change in length upon original length. So this is the simple formula of the Poisson's ratio we have used for the calculation of it. So this is the one problem related to the Poisson's ratio calculation. Now, the next problem is in front of you. So just read the statement carefully, understand the things and try to give the solution. So the 4 options are already mentioned in front of you. Only you have to identify the correct option. So just see, I will read the statement. A rod of length L having uniform cross-sectional area A is subjected to tensile force as shown in the figure. So what they have mentioned, let us see here. One rod is there. That rod is having length L, which is given at the bottom side. You can see in the figure. Okay. It is having the cross-sectional area as a capital A. Okay. Its cross-sectional area will be considered as a capital A and it is subjected to the tensile force as shown in the figure. So one tensile force is applied at the left side as a capital P. Another tensile force is applied at right side as a capital P. Okay. If the Young's modulus of the material is varies linearly from E1 to E2. So whatever the Young's modulus is there or modulus of elasticity is there, it varies linearly from E1 to E2 along the length of the rod. That means at one side, Young's modulus is E1 and at another side, the Young's modulus is E2. Okay. Comma, the normal stress developed at the section, yes. So whatever the central section they have considered in the figure, you can see at that particular section, we have to calculate the normal stress. So normal stress, simple definition we are having. Normal stress means stress is equal to force upon area and the normal stress is always perpendicular to the cross-sectional area. Please keep in mind, normal stress, or it is also called as a direct stress. That stress is always perpendicular to the cross-sectional area. Now, what is the stress developed at the central section? So the 4 options are given. So the first option is given in the form of P upon A. Second option, P in bracket epsilon 1 minus epsilon 2 divided by A in bracket epsilon 1 plus epsilon 2. Third option will be given P into AT E2 divided by A into E1. Fourth option, P into E1 divided by A into E2. So these are the 4 options are given. Out of that 4 options, we have to choose the correct option. So what is your final answer? So that we have to check. So for that purpose here, we need to understand some of the basic things. We need to understand some of the basic things, some of the important assumptions. It is very important. And here we have to identify or we have to understood the basic definition of stress. If we remind the basic concept of the stress, immediately you can give the answer. So if you look at to this particular figure, one rod is there. Okay, that rod is having length L. Okay, their cross-sectional area A, and it is subjected to the P amount of force, that is tensile force. One force is applied at the left side, another force is applied at the right side. And what they have mentioned, the Young's modulus of the material is varies from E1 to E2. If this particular rod is made by the single material, if this particular total rod, if it is made by the single material, then how it is possible to vary its Young's modulus from E1 to E2? If suppose, if this is the steel material, if this rod is made by the steel material, then this particular steel material is having the single Young's modulus. There is no any condition or there is no any possibility to vary the Young's modulus from E1 to E2. There is no any possibility to vary the Young's modulus from E1 to E2. Therefore, here we have to consider the first assumption, that is there is no any possibility to vary the Young's modulus from E1 to E2. Please keep in mind, there is no any possibility to vary the Young's modulus from E1 to E2, and the stress value will not be defined in the form of Young's modulus. If you define the basic definition of stress, stress is equal to force upon area. So at the numerator also, the Young's modulus is not present in the formula. At the denominator also, Young's modulus is not present in the formula. We are having the simple definition. Stress is equal to force upon area. That means sigma is equal to P upon A. At the numerator also, Young's modulus is not present. At the denominator also, Young's modulus is not present. Then what will be the answer? Can anybody guess what will be the answer from the four options A, B, C, D? What will be the answer? Yes, A. A, it is correct. It is 100% correct. Why three options are totally eliminated? Because here in the second option, the stress is given in the form of Young's modulus, E1 minus E2, E1 plus E2. But in the stress formula, this Young's modulus will not be considered. Therefore, second option is neglected. Second, again the force P upon A, it is mentioned in the form of E2 upon E1. So it is also not considered. Fourth option, it is also represented in the form of E1 upon E2. It is also not considered. That means these three options are not to be considered. Only the first option will be the correct. Only the first option will be the correct, that is stress is equal to force upon area. But here we have to calculate that particular stress value at the section yes. How this P upon A is applicable at this particular section yes, that now we have to identify. Already we have calculated our final answer, that is normal stress developed at this particular section, or normal stress developed in this particular whole rod is equal to P upon A. Young's modulus is not varies from E1 to E2. Just this is given for your confusion purpose. Young's modulus is varies from E1 to E2 along the length of the rod. This is given just for your confusion purpose. This Young's modulus will not be vary from first section to the second section, because as it is made by the single material, so Young's modulus will remain constant. Therefore, these three options are totally eliminated. We have taken P upon A as a final answer. But how this P upon A is applicable at the section yes, that we have to identify. Okay, so for that purpose, this is the solution. So how they have given the answer, let us see. So what we have done, we have considered the sections of that particular rod. What we have done, we have considered the sections of that particular rod. So what I have done, this P I have taken left as it is. Whatever the central section is there. So let us see here. This is the section. This is yes. This is yes. That means whatever the central portion of the rod is there, that central portion I have considered. Total length is L. Half section length becomes L by 2. Okay. So this P is present as it is at the left side, and whatever the stress is developed, whatever the stress or whatever the force is developed at the central point, that will be considered as a R1. That will be considered as a R1. What is meant by the R1? R1 represents the resistance force developed at the central section. If in the body, the resistance force will not be developed, immediately deformation will be taking place. So now here, your capital P is equal to R1. Let us see. Your capital P is equal to R1. Why? For example, if this P is equal to 50 kilonewton, which is moving to the left side, at that time, same amount of 50 kilonewton force will be developed at the right side as a resistance force, and that will be considered as a R1. जर लेफ्ट साइडला आपण 50 किलोन्यूटनचा फोर्स जर बॉडीवर अप्लाय केला असेल, तर त्याच बॉडीच्या अपोजिट साइडला तेवढ्याच क्वांटिटीचा रेजिस्टन्स फोर्स पण काय होत असतो, डेव्हलप होत असतो. If that resistance force will be developed, then there should not be some amount of deformation is taking place, but that body will resist for the deformation. The resistance force जर त्या बॉडी मध्ये डेव्हलप झाला नाही तर इमिडिएटली त्या बॉडीचं काय होणार आहे, डिफॉर्मेशन होतं. Therefore here we have considered the half section. त्या half section मध्ये लेफ्ट साइडला P amount of force, that is 50 kilonewton force we have applied, and at the right side or at the center section, the R1 amount of resistance force will be developed, which will register for this particular 50 kilonewton. Okay, therefore P is equal to R1. Therefore your stress becomes sigma n becomes R1 upon A is equal to P upon A. So this is the equation number 1 we have applied for the left side of the section. Similarly, we have to consider the right side of the section. One more figure they have given at the bottom side. Okay, so this P represents the P which is represented at the right side. It represents the original force applied on the body, and at the left side here, instead of R2 they have written P2. By mistake they have written P2, but it is R2 value. Now what that particular R2 indicates? That R2 represents the resistance force developed at the left side, because here again, if this 50 kilonewton force is applied at the right side at that time, in order to resist this 50 kilonewton force, another resistance force is developed at the left side, that means at the section yes. So whatever the section we have considered for the first figure, same section we have to consider for the second figure. That means again at the section point, this R2 amount of resistance force will be developed, which will resist to the 50 kilonewton force. Therefore once again, sigma n is equal to R2 upon A is equal to P upon A. This is the second equation. Now, if we compare the value of R1, equation R1 and R2, equation 1 and 2. So here the R1 value is also 50 kilonewton. R2 value is also 50 kilonewton. Therefore, your normal stress becomes sigma n is equal to P upon A. That means whenever I have to calculate the stress developed on the body, the stress developed at the left side, stress developed at the right side, as well as stress developed at the center of that particular body, it is also equal to same. If you look at our first figure, this is the first figure. That means if I will draw this particular figure once again here, so sigma n is equal to P upon A, it is applicable at this particular left side. Sigma n is equal to P upon A, it is applicable at the right side. And if I will consider this is the section center point, yes, at this particular section also stress is equal to force upon A, because at this particular section, whatever the resistance force is developed, that resistance force is common or it is equal when we will compare with the stress force applied at the left side and force applied at the right side. For example, at the left side, if 100 kilonewton force is there, at the right side also it is equal to 100 kilonewton. And this 100 kilonewton is equal to your resistance force. जेवढा फोर्स त्या बॉडीवर अप्लाय झालेला आहे तेवढाच फोर्स त्या बॉडीमध्ये सेंटरला डेव्हलप होतो ऍज अ रेजिस्टन्स फोर्स. इफ रेजिस्टन्स फोर्स विल नॉट बी डेव्हलप्ड, immediately body will get break at this particular center section. Therefore, it is very important or it is very requirement. This is the requirement to develop the resistance force in the body. Then and then only that body can sustain the load. If resistance force will not be developed, immediately deformation will be taking place. Therefore, it is necessary or it is required to develop the resistance force. Therefore, this P upon A, it is applicable at the center section. P upon A, it is applicable at the left side, it is applicable at the right side, but how it is applicable at the center, that we have discussed here by taking the two sections, one section at the left side, another section at the right side. We have taken R1, we have taken R2, but R1 is equal to R2. Therefore, sigma n is equal to P upon A, which is perpendicular to the cross-sectional area. So this is the actual solution. Why P upon A is applicable at the section yes. For that understanding, here I have given this particular explanation. Okay, so this is the one problem related to the simple formula stress. How the stress is equal to force upon A applicable at the center section, left side and the right side of the rod. Okay. Now, the next problem is in front of you. It is related to the thermal stresses conditions. So just I will read the statement carefully and then we have to identify what option will be the correct. Let us see. A circular rod of length L and the cross-sectional area A. One rod is there. Its length will be considered as a capital L. The cross-sectional area is A, has a modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus as a capital E. Okay. And coefficient of thermal expansion alpha. If this coefficient of thermal expansion is mentioned in the statement, then immediately we can say that this particular statement is based on the thermal stresses. Because in the regular problems, regular statements, this coefficient of thermal expansion is not required. Now here they have mentioned means they have given the problem based on the thermal stress conditions. Full stop. One end of the rod is fixed and another end is free. What condition they have mentioned? One end of the rod is fixed and another is free if the temperature of rod is increased by delta T. The temperature of rod is increased by the delta T, then four options are given. Stress developed in the rod is E into alpha into delta T and strain in the rod is alpha into delta T. Second option, both stress and strain developed in the rod is 0. Third, stress developed in the rod is 0 and strain developed in the rod is alpha into delta T. Then stress developed in the rod is alpha into delta T and strain developed in the rod is equal to 0. So these are the four options. If we think, if I will draw a figure here, as per the conditions they have mentioned, one end of the rod is fixed. So what I will do, I will fix this particular rod at the left side. Another end is free. This rod is having length L, cross-sectional area A, the Young's modulus is given E, coefficient of thermal expansion is given alpha, but condition is given one end is fixed, another end is free. If the temperature is increased from delta T, for example, initial temperature is 10 degrees Celsius, and that temperature is increased from 10 degrees Celsius to 80 degrees Celsius, and that increasing temperature is given by delta T, then what exactly happened in that particular body? Now, what will be the answer? What will be the answer? Stress developed in the rod is alpha into E into alpha into delta T, and strain developed in the rod is alpha into delta T. Now here we have to identify the condition. If one end of the rod is fixed and another is free, what exactly happened here? Whether stress is developed or not, whether strain is developed or not, or both stress is equal to 0, strain is equal to 0, or stress is developed, strain is equal to 0, or stress is 0, strain is developed. So like that, for the four options are given. So what will be the answer? What option will be there? You can represent your answer in the chat box. Which answer will be correct? Yes, one answer I got, that is C. Any another answer? Try to guess the answer. C. Okay, another C. Any another answer? C. Okay. So many of you have represented the C answer. If you look at to this particular answer C or option C, let us see. The stress developed in the rod is 0 and strain developed in the rod is alpha into delta T. Okay. So this answer is 100% correct. But how it is correct, that now we have to understood. So what condition they have mentioned? One end of the rod is fixed and another end is free. So one end is fixed, no problem, but another end is free. So due to that free end, what happens if the temperature is given to this particular rod, their thermal expansion will be taking place in this direction. That means length is increases. Their thermal expansion is taking place in this particular direction. But here we can say that there is only thermal expansion. There is only thermal expansion, and this thermal expansion is correlated with the strain value. Thermal expansion is taking place means length is increases, and that increase in length is correlated with the strain only. Increase in strain value is correlated, increase in dimension or increase in thermal expansion is correlated with the strain value. Therefore, here only thermal expansion is taking place, means there is a increase in strain or development in strain. But at the same time, due to the thermal expansion, there is no any thermal stress will be developed. Whatever the thermal stress is developed, it is equal to 0. जोपर्यंत आपण ह्या बॉडीला दुसऱ्या बाजूने पण त्याचं थर्मल एक्सपान्शन आपण अवॉइड करत नाही, तोपर्यंत ह्या बॉडीमध्ये थर्मल स्ट्रेस डेव्हलप होणार नाही. But here, what condition they have mentioned? One end is fixed, another end is free. Due to the free end, or due to the increase in temperature, the thermal expansion is taking place, means there is a only development of strain, there is no any development of stress. Therefore, the third option is correct. If you look at to the first option, stress is developed, strain is developed. 50% statement is correct. Strain developed in the rod is alpha into delta T. But this first statement is totally wrong. No stress is developed. Therefore, the first option is not considered. Both stress and strain developed R is equal to 0. Strain develop होते पण इथे काय सांगितले, stress पण 0 and strain पण 0. Therefore, second option is also not considered. Third option, what they have given, stress developed in the rod is mentioned, but strain developed is equal to 0. But strain is developing, therefore last option is also not taken. But the option C will be correct. Why? Stress developed is equal to 0 and strain developed in the rod is equal to alpha into delta. Therefore, third option will be correct. And for that purpose, here the conditions I have given, this is just for your understanding purpose. That is, this is the deformation alpha into delta T into L. Sometimes the delta T can be indicated by the small t, sometimes it is indicated by capital T, or sometimes it is indicated by the delta. If you look at here, the strain developed in the rod is given as a alpha into delta T. So here the condition is given, one end is fixed, another end is free. One end is fixed, another end is free, and this much amount of deformation will be taking place, and that deformation is represented here. That means only thermal expansion, only thermal deformation, only strain is developed, but no stress, because due to the thermal expansion. If at another side, in this particular given problem, if at another side also, if both ends are fixed, then there is a possibility of thermal stress, but there is no any possibility of strain. When strain is developing, the deformation झालं असेल तर. But that this concept is totally opposite to the concept when body is subjected to the external load. If body is subjected to the external load, due to that particular external force, both stress and strain will be developed. If body is subjected to the external force, but in case of a thermal stress concept, it is exactly opposite. Due to the increase in temperature, only thermal deformation, but no stress if body is free. But if body is totally constrained, then there is only thermal stress, but no thermal strain. So please understand the basic difference between body subjected to the temperature and body subjected to the external loads. Okay. So this is the one conditions they have mentioned. Now, one more problem based on the thermal stress conditions. Okay. Let us see here. A steel rod of length L and diameter D, the steel rod of length L and diameter D, fixed at both sides. So one rod is there, their length is L is there, diameter D is there, then they are fixed at both ends. Is uniformly heated to a temperature rise of delta T. So some temperature is given and the rise of temperature is delta T. The Young's modulus is E, coefficient of linear expansion is alpha. The thermal stress in the rod. Thermal stress in the rod we have to calculate. So here, what condition they have given? One rod is there. That rod is fixed at both sides. That means from the both side it is totally constrained or it is totally fixed, and some amount of temperature, how much delta T amount of temperature is given to it. Their Young's modulus is E, coefficient of linear or coefficient of thermal expansion is alpha, and we have to calculate the stress value. Four options is given. The stress is equal to 0, stress is equal to alpha into delta T into T, or alpha into delta T. Third option, E into alpha into delta T, and fourth option, E into alpha into delta T into L. So now here, first of all, we have to identify the trick. So here, one figure I have represented in front of you. Okay. Well, first figure represents one end is fixed, another end is free, due to which the thermal expansion is taking place, and it is represented by the dotted lines. The second figure, what that second figure indicates, the rod is fixed from the both sides. At point A is also it is fixed, at point B is also it is fixed. There is a length L, their diameter will be considered as a capital D. Some amount of temperature, how much delta T amount of temperature will be given. Now, due to the fixed end, due to the fixed from the both sides, what exactly happened here? There is no any thermal expansion. There is no any thermal deformation. Why? Point A is also fixed, point B is also fixed. Therefore, there is no any chance to extend the body at the left side or extend the body at the right side, because at point A it is fixed, at point B it is fixed. Therefore, there is no any thermal expansion is taking place. There is no any thermal deformation is taking place, means there is no any thermal strain will be developed. And due to this particular constrained condition, due to the fixed from the both sides, what happened? There is a development of thermal stress. Now here I can easily say that the thermal stress will be developed because body is totally constrained. Then what the thermal stress will be developed? That answer we have to identify from this particular four options. So what will be the answer? Please tell me. What will be the answer? Out of A, B, C, D, what will be the answer? Which option will be correct? What is your answer? For that purpose, here we need to remind the thermal stress formula. Here we need to remind the thermal stress formula. What will be the answer? Please represent your answer in the chat box so I can give the verification. C. Okay, C. Yes, 100% correct. The C is the correct answer. Why C is the correct answer? Because here at the bottom side, I have represented the thermal stress formula. If you look at the option A, it is not considered because there is a possibility of thermal stress development and zero answer will not be accepted. Then second option, alpha into delta T. This alpha into delta T is applicable for the formula thermal strain. Alpha into delta T is applicable for the thermal strain. This is the formula for the thermal strain. And for this particular strain value, if I will multiply the Young's modulus, that answer will become thermal stress. Therefore, option C is correct, because we know that capital E is equal to, capital E is equal to stress upon strain. If I have to calculate the stress, stress is equal to capital E into epsilon. Okay, so what is the epsilon value? Alpha into delta T. And for this alpha into delta T, if I will multiply by capital E, I will got the third option, that is E into alpha into delta T. In the fourth option, this additional L they have represented. Therefore, it is also not considered. Option A is also not considered. Option B is also not considered, because option B is given in the form of strain value only. But we are having the formula stress is equal to E into alpha into delta T. And here at the bottom side also, I have represented thermal stress formula. Thermal stress, that is sigma TH, is equal to strain into Young's modulus. Here you can see strain into Young's modulus. So what is the strain? Alpha into T. So this T can be represented. This T can be represented by capital T, or sometimes it is also represented by the delta T. Therefore, alpha into delta T into E, it represents the thermal stress value. So previous problem and these problems are exactly opposite. In the previous problem, no thermal stress. Why? Because body is free at one end. In this particular problem, thermal stress will be developed because body is fixed from the both sides. So that conditions we have to understand. And based on this particular thermal stress condition, 101%, one problem or one numerical is there in your GATE examination and the competitive examination. And for such types of the problems, there is a negative marking system because the 4 options are given to you. If you choose the correct option, you will get the out of marks. If you choose the incorrect option, then there is a possibility of negative 1/3 negative marking system will be there. Therefore, first of all, we need to understand the concept first, apply your okay. So this is the problem based on this particular thermal stress condition. So option C is the correct. Now here, one more problem I will ask you. So let us say very simple problem is there. Let us see in terms of Poisson's ratio mu, the ratio of Young's modulus to shear modulus of elastic material is. In terms of Poisson's ratio, the ratio of Young's modulus E to shear modulus G. Ratio of Young's modulus E to shear modulus G of elastic material is. So what will be the ratio? So for that purpose here, first of all, we need to understand the relation between E and G. So the relation I have represented in front of you, E is equal to 2G in bracket 1 plus mu. E is equal to 2G in bracket 1 plus mu. If I will take the ratio of E upon G, if I will take the ratio of E upon G, so out of the 4 options, which option will be correct? Out of the 4 options, which option will be correct? A, simple. It is very simple. If I will take this particular G to the left side, so my equation becomes E upon G is equal to 2 in bracket 1 plus mu. So this will be the correct answer. So such types of the simple problems, it is also asked in the GATE examination. But here it is very important to remind the actual relation. What is the relation between E and G? What is the relation between E and K? That understanding we have to do here. So simple, what I have done, I have taken the relation between E and G. That G I have taken to the left side, it becomes divided, and ratio of E upon G, your final answer becomes 2 in bracket 1 plus mu, and that 4 options are given here, and out of that particular 4 options, option A is your correct answer. So such types of the simple numericals are also asked, but here there is a possibility of negative marking if you choose the incorrect option. Okay. Now, the next problem is related to the stress strain diagram. Okay, so let us see here. Which one of the following type of stress strain relationship best describe the behavior of brittle material, such as ceramic, thermosetting plastic, sigma is equal to stress and epsilon is equal to strain. So which of the following stress strain diagram is applicable for the brittle material? Which will be the, out of the following 4 diagrams, which diagram or which stress strain curve is applicable for the brittle material, that we have to identify. So in the theoretical discussion, we have discussed the stress strain diagram for the ductile material. Ductile material we have considered as a mild steel, and the brittle material we have considered as a glass. Yes, many of you have represented the answer D. Answer D is 100% correct. Why? Let us see. If you think about the option A, In case of a brittle material, you will get only 2 points. One is the proportional limit and another is the breaking point, because once we throw the glass, here they have considered the ceramic material. Ceramic is there, thermosetting plastic is there. If we will throw this particular material on the ground, immediately after the proportional limit, there is a breaking. Immediately there is a breaking taking place. There is no any elastic limit, there is no any upper yield point, there is no any lower yield point, because directly this material will get break. And that the stress strain diagram for the ductile material and the stress strain diagram for the brittle material we have discussed in the theoretical points in the previous 2-3 lectures. If we think about the option A, here the stress strain diagram is inclined, but here they have represented the horizontal line. Such types of the horizontal line will not be observed in the brittle material. If you think about the option B, inclined line is there, but one more inclined line they have represented like that, but it is not applicable, because this line represents there is a possibility of upper yield point, lower yield point, and there is a possibility of breaking. But upper yield point, lower yield point, or such types of the maximum inclination will not be applicable in case of a brittle material. Option C is not totally applicable, because here they have represented only horizontal line, means stress is equal to 0 and only strain is increases. But if you think about the option D, here they have represented the inclined line. Somewhat inclination is there like this. Somewhat inclination is there like this. That means the proportional limit point and breaking points are very close to each other. And for that purpose, your option D is correct. And why? Answer is represented here. Why? The brittle material breaks without plastic deformation. Somewhat plastic deformation is possible in case of a ductile material, because in case of a ductile material, the plastic deformation will be started from upper yield point, then lower yield point, then ultimate strain, and then breaking will be taking place. But in case of a brittle material, the breaking will be possible without plastic deformation. Therefore, that plastic deformation points are not represented in the brittle material. After proportional limit, directly there is a breaking. After proportional limit, directly there is a breaking. Therefore, your option D is correct as a stress strain diagram for the brittle material. Option D is correct, because here after the plastic deformation, immediately there is a breaking. But in the figure A, after plastic deformation, here the stress and strain will remain constant. In the option B, after proportional limit, there is an increase in stress, increase in strain. It will not be accepted. In the option C, the stress is 0 and only strain is increases. Therefore, option A, B, C are not accepted. Option D will be 100% accepted, because after proportional limit, immediately there is a breaking taking place without plastic deformation, and that plastic deformation is not visible in option D. Therefore, option D will be considered as your final answer. So this is also one more problem based on the stress strain diagram for the brittle material. Previously, we have solved one problem based on the ductile material. We have to identify the sequence of the points. First of all, proportional limit, then elastic limit, then upper yield point, then lower yield point, then ultimate stress point, and then breaking. We have to choose the correct option. We have to match the pairs. And now here they have asked the question in the form of identify the stress strain diagram for the brittle material. So here, first of all, we need to identify the concept of the brittle material curve first, which materials we are considered under the brittle, that we have to identify, and then we have to choose the correct option. Okay, so this is the problem based on the stress strain diagram for the brittle material. Okay, so with this, today we will stop here. Remaining numericals we will take in the next lecture. Now I request all of you, please type your division and roll number in the chat box for the attendance purpose.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today problem PPT, please send on group.
Yes. I will share that particular material on your group. Okay. I will make it PDF. Yes, I will make. I'm waiting to finish that particular chapter, because what happened in the same PPT remaining part is also there. But in advance, I will send the PPT you all by making the PDF. Then you can refer that particular PPT for your further study. Please understand, now you are in TE. Okay. Some of the
Yes,
students will be, they have filled your GATE examination in your third year, and whatever these problems I'm taking here, all these particular problems are important for your GATE examination. So try to refer whatever the notes I am sending, attend all these particular lectures, then you are able to solve or to attempt the GATE examination for this particular, at least for the strength of material, because in your GATE, maybe 7 to 8 marks are there for this particular subject. So immediately after finishing this particular lecture, I will send the PDF of this particular PPT on your groups, so we can refer as a study material. And in between that, if you are facing any problem, anytime you can ask me, I will give the solutions. Okay, so immediately please type your roll number along with your division.
can we left, sir?
Yes, you can leave. If you represented your attendance in chat box, you can leave and you can join the another session.
Okay, sir. Thank you.